It's time for Success in Real Estate with Frankie Griffin, owner and broker in charge of the Palmetto Success Team, certified residential specialist, accredited buyer representative, military relocation professional, real estate appraiser, and author of Success in Real Estate. If you are interested in buying or selling a home, investing in real estate, or having your home appraised, you will enjoy Success in Real Estate. Now, here's Frankie Griffin.
The last few weeks, we've sort of been concentrating on helping buyers and some things to consider, things to think about. But now we want to sort of work a little bit with sellers and hopefully help you out a little bit. Some other things we do want to talk about, or at least I plan to talk about, I've got some tips. Actually, the top 10 ways to save energy or to lower your electric bill each month. So hopefully this will be very useful information to you. And then, as always, we plan to have our mortgage update with Erica Hill West, and then our horror story, our real estate horror story with Andy Alm. Andy Alm's with Alm & McKay Law Firm, does an awesome job helping me and so many other people out in the real estate industry. But most importantly, I want to make sure we help you or address any concerns you may have, if you have any, concerning real estate. Love to hear from you. If you have any questions or just comments, give us a call. The number in studio is 799-TALK or 799-8255. We'd love to help you out with anything that's on your mind. And I haven't done this before, and I'm going to try it now just to see how it's received. But I've had a lot of people send me a text or maybe an email about their interest in possibly getting into real estate. And if that's something you might be interested in, we would certainly love to help you with that. You can just go to our school, or my school, the Real Estate School for Success. We can get you trained up, get your license that you're going to need to practice real estate. And anybody that may be interested in doing just that, wanting to get the real estate license, if you call me during this show, sometime between now and 10 o'clock, I'm going to give you a 50% discount on the price to get your real estate license. This will be the last time you're going to hear it on this show today. So you got 50% off of your licensing course, but you do have to call in and you have to specifically request the discount, and then I will honor that and I will give it to you. Again, the number to call here in studio is 799-8255. Again, 799-8255. But right now, I want to talk about some things that I think you as a seller might be interested in. And I've got several tips here, but here's where I want to start off with these tips, because I've seen some situations where we get a little bit anxious when we start writing up offers and making counter offers and things of that nature, and actually will come back and kind of hurt you if you're not careful or know exactly what you're doing here. So the first thing I would like to just suggest, make sure we all understand the difference between negotiating and a counteroffer. And I think what you're going to find is quite often, and unfortunately, an awful lot of real estate agents consider a counteroffer to be negotiating, and it's just not. There's a big difference there. And here's what I would suggest to you. If you're looking at selling your house, or maybe you have your house on the market, and you get an offer to come in, and maybe the offer is not where you would like it to be, hopefully you're close enough to at least sort of negotiate and work this thing out. But then your agent says, well, look, we can make a counter offer and try to get it to where you want to get it. Well, before you make whatever counter that counter is, make sure you ask the agent. Anyway, I'm sitting here talking to Brian while I'm also doing my show, and I'm reading and talking, and I am ambidextrous and I can handle all kind of things, that's for sure. But anyway, ask your agent before you make the counter offer, What is negotiable about the offer? That is just so important to know that. You don't know what to counter if you don't know what's negotiable. And your agent should go sit down if possible. And if it's not possible, then certainly a phone call would probably work. But at least talk to the other side and find out a little bit about the offer. Why are you making this offer, and why is this so important? And what parts of this offer may be negotiable, and which ones are just not negotiable. And let me just give you for instance what I'm talking about. It's not uncommon where buyers will ask, I got it right, where buyers were asking their offer for the seller to pay at least some portion, if not all, of the buyer's closing costs. That's pretty common in this market now. I think most sellers probably almost anticipate that as being part of the offer. But then some sellers, when they see that in the offer, will think, well, either that's just too much in closing costs for the seller to pay, or maybe they just don't want to pay the buyer cost. So they counter back and say, look, I'm not paying the $3,000, $4,000, or whatever was in the offer in terms of closing cost. Well, the problem you're going to run into there, or potentially, that buyer may not have any money for closing cost. And if they don't have the money for closing costs, and you counter that, then you've just shot the deal down with virtually little to no chance now to sell your home, or at least to that buyer. You need to find out, is this something, these closing costs, are these negotiable, buyer? And if you're the buyer and they are negotiable, then you don't want to say they're not. You never want to lose the trust factor when you're negotiating. It'll never run very well for you from that point on. But need to find out, is it negotiable or not? And not just the closing costs, but anything else. Seller, you may find you're just going to have to pay the closing costs, but we can sort of make up the difference on what you're going to net at closing in other ways. So there are plenty of ways to do it, but it's just very hard to try to get it together, have a very good agreement between both parties until both sides understand what we can do, what we can't do. And I really think we need to sit down and figure that out. That's the negotiating part before you start making the counter offers. All right. So now I'm going to move on to these tips, things to do to prepare your house for closing. And I think we had someone call in a little bit earlier about maybe interested in the discount that I was just offering. You do have to call in to the show. I just want to be clear, not my cell phone. You need to call in to the show on the air and ask for the discount, and I'll be more than happy to give it to you. Again, the number is 799-8255 if that's something you're interested in. We'd love to help you with that. 799-8255. And in fact, I think we've got someone on the line, and we are going to be talking to Erica Hill West with our mortgage update. But before we do that, I know Erica's actually holding for me, so we'd ask you to keep holding. I'd like to bring Hugh on the show with me, which is on the line. Hugh, how you doing today?
Hey, well, I got something a little wrong. It's Mike Hughes, but I'm doing fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Hughes.
Yes, sir. We're doing great.
Well, awesome. What can we do for you today?
Well, I think I'd like to sign up for the real estate school. I'll give you a little short rundown. My grandfather in the Columbia area started a real estate company, and then my cousin opened one, and then my wife worked with them, and now I'm really thinking that I want to get on board.
Awesome.
I love people, I love properties, and it's just something I would enjoy doing.
Well, this is a great time to even be getting into real estate. It's an awesome time. Last year, we saw a huge pickup in real estate business, and it has really carried over into this year. So I'm really excited about the things we're going to be seeing this year. So, well, I tell you what, since you've called in, I'm going to give you a 50% discount. How about that?
Well, that sounds great, man. We love a deal, you know.
Well, I tell you what, all you've got to do, what's the last four of your phone number there, Mike?
It's 0433.
0433. Well, when you get ready to sign up, just give us a call at the real estate school. That's the Real Estate School for Success. We're on St. Andrews Road. And just give Ashley, my office manager, your the last four, and of course I'll provide this to her so she'll know you'll be calling in.
Well, that sounds great. We sure appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Hope you have a great day.
You do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, and if anybody else wants a discount, I'm in the giving mood today, so 50% off on all classes to get your real estate license. Give us a call, 799-8255, 799-8255. And now I want to talk to Miss Erica Hill West. She's got our mortgage update. Obviously, she is our mortgage go-to gal. How you doing, Miss Erica?
I'm doing well. And yourself, Frankie?
Oh, this is such a fine day today. As
Pretty
always.
beautiful.
Yes, it is. It was, when I walked into the studio, the temperature was perfect for me. If it stayed like this all day, every day, the rest of my life, I'd be happy.
If we could control that.
It was perfect. Well, what's going on in the financing arena?
Well, we saw a little increase in rates this week. Nothing crazy, but probably our biggest move in the recent, 30, 60 days. Not anything huge. We're still, high threes, low to mid fours. Nothing crazy. We just saw a little increase.
Really?
It went up. Mm-hmm.
I mean, 4%, that's still incredible.
Absolutely.
That is still incredible. And I'm sure everybody in the world has probably already refinanced by now to take advantage. But if they haven't, they certainly need to give you a call.
That's right. Actually, people haven't. Not everybody has, and I think it's just because they weren't sure what their house would be worth, if they could qualify. I'm seeing people that just bought their house 2 and 3 years ago starting to refinance.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, these you got to take advantage of these rates, and anytime. And of course, you're the mortgage consultant, but what would you say is a good time to refinance? I mean, when do I need to be able to take like a full percentage point off, or?
Excuse me. Typically, yes, but there are other factors. If you had a USDA 3 years ago, there was no monthly guarantee fee, and there is now. So even though you may decrease in rate, that extra portion of payment that's going towards guarantee fee for USDA you may have the exact same payment.
Really?
It's the same with FHA. FHA monthly premiums have increased, as well as their annual premiums over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it may not benefit you to stay within the same product.
Yeah, because things change an awful lot.
Especially within government loans.
Every time I talk to you, there's a new product or a different product, or the product's changed or something, it seems like.
Yeah.
But so
pretty frequently.
It'd probably be a good idea just to talk to you about the type of financing we have.
Yes.
And just see if there's something you can do to make this better.
Yeah, most of the time, people need to look at what their interest rate is,
mm-hmm.
what their principal and interest payment, if they have any mortgage insurance, how much that is a month, and then their escrow amount. They also need to know the type of program they are in. That's typically the most challenging. I usually can tell if I pull credit, but sometimes we want to see if it's going to benefit them to refinance before pulling credit.
Okay.
And I can't really do that unless I know the product.
Yep. There you go. Well, you do an awesome job, and I can't thank you enough, certainly for what you do with my clients. And how can we get in touch with you if we do have some questions?
You can reach me on my cell phone at 803-528-5019. You can email me at ewest@mortgagenetwork.com, or you can search for me on Facebook. Just search for the Mortgage Go-To Gal.
Mm-hmm.
Please go there and like my page, and if you have any questions, just shoot me a message, and I'd be happy to help you any way I can.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right. You take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that's Erica Hill West. She's a mortgage consultant with Mortgage Network. She is incredible. The person I go to all the time if there's anything dealing with finance or trying to get somebody approved for a loan or help them to get their credit score up, she's it. She knows how to do it. She's an expert in pretty much every facet of financing. So I'd encourage you to look her up. Again, she was on Facebook, Mortgage Go-To Gal. And if you can't remember that, then you can certainly go to my website, which is just www.frankiegriffin.com. Click on, I've got a link there called Real Estate Partners, and you'll see all my partners there. Obviously, she will be there as my financing guru and does an awesome job. All right, in the time that we've got available or left in this segment, I did want to talk about a couple of these tips that I sort of wanted to touch on. And one of them is to, number one, if you're looking at selling your house, you certainly want to differentiate your house from your neighbor's home. And there's all kind of ways to do that, but obviously maybe taking a look at your landscaping. One of the things a lot of buyers are really paying a lot of attention to now are windows, and so it may be well worth your while to put in, if you don't already have it, some higher grade windows for insulation purposes. They're easier to clean. They just look better. That's a really good investment. Buyers get very impressed when they can see what appears to be a new roof on the house. Just things that you can do to update your home, modernizing, if you will. Because these things will do a few things. Number one, at least in the eyes of an appraiser, excuse me, when I go out to appraise, these are some things I'm looking for. The condition of the home. And if you've done things to, for example, if you have replaced windows or got the newer windows, maybe you have replaced the roof, well, that adds to your economic life. That means much less depreciation is going to be coming your way. So this all increases the value of your home. So one, you're improving your economic life, and two, the condition is going to be much better. It's going to be much better than possibly the other homes in the area. So you're going to be able to get more for the house. Excuse me. The buyer's really going to be more attracted to it because this is what they like. Yeah. If I don't choke to death while I'm trying to explain it. But they do. These are things that buyers are really looking for. In fact, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more on the other side of the break, but they're looking for houses that are pretty much in move-in condition. That's what their buyers are expecting today. They may say they're looking for a fixer-upper. I've learned what that means. I've deciphered that. A fixer-upper means they want a house in mint condition at the fixer-upper price. That's what they're looking for. But anyway.
Now, the real estate horror story with Andy on Success in Real Estate.
Andy On is more than likely, I guess, in the courtroom as we speak. He has not been able to call in. Maybe he'll be able to call in before we get off the air. But I did want to share what can be a horror story. Actually had this happen, or I'm familiar with this particular story, let me put it that way. And it is something you want to be careful of, and make sure contracts are written in such a manner to protect you. And I'm talking about you being the seller here, since this is all about helping sellers today, where we had a seller accept an offer on a contract. And like your typical contracts, it read that the seller must have vacated the home. They have to turn over possession of the home by closing. So typically that means the day or a day or two before closing, that's when the seller is going to be moving and have to get out of the home. Well, the problem this seller had, they went ahead and moved, actually signed a lease, a one-year lease, thinking that they were going to spend that year trying to get another house built, was their plans. And then come to find out, when we showed up at closing, the buyer never showed up. And when we finally got in touch with the buyer just said, well, we're not buying, we've changed our mind, we don't want the house. Well, that kind of left the seller in a little bit of a hard spot, because now not only they still have the mortgage on the house they thought they had sold, they now have another rent payment that would have to be made. And this did cause some financial stress, obviously, for these sellers. There are some things you can do to protect yourself as the seller from things like that happening. Certainly has to be addressed again in the contract. There are ways to do that. I'm not going to get into that kind of technical stuff on the air. It's probably a little too much. But I'd be more than happy to help anybody. If you have any questions, you can certainly call me off the air, and we'll work with you and help you get your house sold any way we can. We'd love to do that. 2, I think, is clean up the clutter in just short. Make sure the clutter is not there, it's not visible. The first thing I would just go ahead and tell you right off the bat, if you're selling your home and you haven't figured this out yet, you're going to figure it out soon. But there is absolutely nothing convenient about selling your home, especially if you live there. I can't think of anything more inconvenient, quite frankly, because you're going to have your home in tip-top shape. It's got to be picked up. It's got to be cleaned at all times, and we all know we don't live like that. I know if you go to my house, it will virtually never be picked up. We do try to keep it clean as possible, but you just never know. I promise you, if you leave for work one day and you forgot to clean something up or put something away, that's when you're going to have buyers come, and it can very well have a negative impact on that. We recommend you depersonalize as much as possible. You hear people, or some agents even recommend removing any family photos, things of that type, because you want the buyer to be able to sort of see this house becoming their home. And sometimes when they see the personal stuff of yours, it's hard for them to picture it becoming theirs. So depersonalize it as much as you can. If you got a lot of furniture in one or two of your rooms, you might want to look at just taking some of that furniture out. Make it very easy to walk through and navigate through each of the rooms. One, it shows better. 2, makes the room actually look a little bigger when they don't have to walk around a bunch of clutter, is what it is in a lot of cases. The third thing I would suggest you consider if you're wanting to sell your home, I'd suggest try sweetening the deal. And when I say sweeten the deal, try to add some things or throw some things in there that may be very attractive to the buyer. And one of those things I kind of touched on a little bit earlier today, but you may want to just go ahead and offer up front. Seller is willing to pay for at least some, if not all, of the buyer closing cost. I think that's a good idea, because I can tell you when and if you do get an offer, you can just about count on that being in the offer anyway. Why not take that negotiating point out and just say, look, here, I'll pay for your closing costs, or at least X amount of your closing cost, and we can move on. One of the things I think you're going to find as the seller, the more you can take away or take out of negotiating, the better off you're going to be as the seller. Buyer almost always has the upper hand when you start doing a lot of negotiating here. So the more you can eliminate, such as the closing cost, the more you take away from what that buyer may be trying to do. The thing I might highly recommend is offer up a home warranty. I think you're going to find that to be very attractive for buyers. Again, if I'm spending a lot of money, whether it be $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000 on a new home, that's a lot of money for most people. And you know, the biggest concern I've got when I go to spend this kind of money is closing on the deal, and then all of a sudden things start breaking. My refrigerator goes out, or some other appliance goes out, or worse yet, my HVAC goes out. Well, these home warranties, most of them will cover most, if not all, of this kind of stuff. So it gives the buyer some assurance, and could, in some cases actually protect the seller from potential liability in some cases. But right now, I do think we've got Andy on the line. So let's go ahead and go straight to our phone lines. Andy, how you doing?
Frankie, how you doing, brother? I am so sorry. I'm in Atlanta and was having some difficulty with the signal out here where I was. So I apologize for the delay in calling in. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. We've got about
Good.
1
Let me
minute.
tell you, I was just listening to what you're saying about home warranties. That is so important, and you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about not only protecting the buyer but also protecting the seller. It gives the buyer a first line of recourse before going back to the seller and saying, hey, hold on, you didn't say this, or you didn't say that, or I never found out this. And even though the seller may not have known that there was an issue with the plumbing or an issue with the HVAC. And, in fact, all those inspections may have been done, but when something goes wrong, it gives them a first avenue of recourse, and it's always a good thing to have. It kind of brings up what I wanted to talk about today, Frank.
Well, since we do have the one and only Andy on with On & McKay Law Firm, he's on the line. He's obviously playing in Atlanta apparently this weekend, so he called in a little bit late. So we want to continue talking to Andy. And Andy, what are you doing in Atlanta, or can you say?
I actually have a client down here that's just retained us in an awful accident case. So we oftentimes get associated in cases, even though they occur outside of South Carolina. And this is one that occurred outside of South Carolina, but we're going to be representing these folks in that action. So I was down here meeting with them today. But it was interesting talking about what you were saying, Frankie, on home warranties, because it kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about today, and that is termite bonds. Really kind of the same situation. So important to have a termite bond on the property. And I tell folks in closings all the time, the two most important things I talk about in every closing are taxes and termites. And unfortunately, and I don't know why this is the case, but unfortunately, so many times when we get to the closing table and I ask, is the property covered under a termite bond, it's like sounds of silence. Nobody knows. Nobody understands what it is. Even though on the property disclosure statement, most times it has a place for you to indicate whether the property is covered under a termite bond. And in fact, on the old property disclosure statement, it indicated what type of bond it was. But at a minimum, your real estate professional or you should ask that question. Is the property covered under a termite bond? Mm-hmm. What type of bond is it? Again, the service, damage, and repair bond is the gold standard. That's the one you want to have. And you've had, I think, Billy Bain on there before talking about termite bonds before, Frankie.
Yeah.
And he's done some seminars with us on the on termite bonds and on the termite letter. And then the other thing is whether it's transferable and whether that transfer is going to be taken care of at closing, or if it's something that's going to be up to the buyer to do after closing. I think it's always important to get those details worked out up front. And I will tell you that I have had nightmare scenarios. We're talking about horror stories, right?
Yeah.
Nightmare scenarios where these issues were not dealt with prior to closing. We get to closing, and all of a sudden, everything that they thought they had with a termite bond, all of a sudden is a bait and switch, and it holds closing up, or it causes problems, or all of a sudden there's something that they want to take care of, before the closing goes forward. So, it's just so important. And particularly in our area, Frankie, you've talked about this many times on your show, and you teach about it as well. In our area, with the environment, the climate being what it is, it's just prone for termites. We got termites. So we got to be able to deal with it. Now, termite bonds are like termite insurance. And they have exclusions, exceptions, limitations, but it's so important to have it. And you're talking about sweetening the deal for a client to see if you can get a property sold. A termite bond does it every time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like you just said, it's not the question's not are you going to have it, it's just when.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Because they're
but
here.
I think that you got to flush these issues out before closing, guys. Y'all got to do this, because I will tell you, a lot of times, those issues aren't necessarily addressed in the contract. A lot of realtors don't and individuals don't have that addressed in the contract, that it's a contingency, that there be a termite bond that's transferable to the buyer at closing.
Yeah.
That's a good contingency, and that's very simple language to add. But at the end of the day, a lot of times people just don't think about that.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to make that determination up front. Taxes and termites, two most important things we talk about out of closing. But one of the biggest things you want to worry about when you're buying a home is whether or not it's termite free and whether it's covered under a bond. So that's my.
And I'd like to just mention too, Andy, and I hope I'm not stepping too far out here, but it's important to hit on all the high points and things that need to be discussed and agreed to in the contract, because a lot of this kind of stuff, as you said, is not already pre-printed or pre-addressed in the contracts. But as a real estate agent, you got to be careful that you don't write in so much that you could be considered practicing law. So you've actually done some. You've actually helped us out. You've got a lot of prepared addendums for various situations with the legal verbiage already there.
We do, and we do a lot of seminars on this type of stuff too. Educational seminars. We had one yesterday on reverse mortgages. And how you can use a reverse mortgage in your business. We do them all the time on home inspections, on termite issues, on HVAC issues. So we try to partner with the real estate community, all to for the purpose and for the goal of benefiting the consumer, the home buyer out there, and making sure that the buyers are getting the best possible representation they can. Frankie, I wanted to make one quick announcement, if I could.
Yeah.
We are opening a Lexington office, and in fact, it's opened, and we're having our grand opening on April 3rd. So we're not doing a tutor and tour this month. We're instead going to have a grand opening where we actually have a little fun, and we don't have to talk about anything substantive. And our new Lexington office is going to be 203 West Main Street, Suite 203C, right there in Lexington, right on West Main. It's right across from that great restaurant. I think it's Libby's or Lily's. I forget the name of it, but great little restaurant though. But we're right across the street there, right at 203 West Main Street. The event, the grand opening, is going to be on April 3rd, which I think is a Thursday.
Yep.
We'll start up around 5 and go until, and it'll be we'll do the ribbon cutting on the office, and it's just really going to be a great event. And I invite everybody to come, because this is I'm actually going back home. Lexington is where I grew up. My granddaddy was mayor. My uncle was mayor. It's where the roots of the raisin run deep for me, and my family had a restaurant there right where Town Hall is. That's where I grew up. My family's home was there. We had a little restaurant called On Speed Stable. I tell people all the time, the longer I practice law, the more I wish I was busting tables for a living. And then we had Tina's Daycare, which was my grandmother's daycare. So I'm happy to get back to Lexington. I'm excited about it, and look forward to having you guys there.
5 o'clock, April 3rd, you said. Now, that's getting into my dinner time, so I assume you're going to feed me.
I'm going to feed you, and I'm going to give you as much to drink as you can possibly handle.
All right, Andy. I can't thank you enough for calling in, my friend.
All right, my friend. Thank y'all. Sorry for being late today.
All right. We'll let you get by this time.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Again, that's Andy On with On and McKay Law Firm. If you need an attorney to help you close a deal or any kind of legal guidance or help, give him a call. He does an awesome job. Got a website, onmckaylaw.com. But our time's about up, and I can't thank you enough for listening. Go to my website. Give me a call, www.frankiegriffin.com. You've been listening to Success in Real Estate on The Point.